Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Friday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. LeBron James is out for Saturday night's preseason opener. How much is he planning on playing in the pretend games? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Everyone has made Locked On Lakers their first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. It's always free. It is never going to be behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with about 21,000 subscribers to the channel. That number is going to zoom up, Andy. So people, join in now while the getting is good, while the space is still good, while you get a good chair. Because they're going to go fast as the season begins. A very exciting Lakers season that we are looking forward to. I want to let everyone know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Lots that we want to get into today as the Lakers get towards their preseason opener tomorrow night in San Francisco, correct? Andy, they're playing the Warriors up there. I believe that's where it is. I don't really...
Definitely playing the Warriors. It is...
Yeah, at Chase Center.
Yep. So
I sort of tune in to the game and then I find out who they're playing because in the preseason, sometimes it doesn't matter as much. But yeah, they play Friday and Monday in Vegas against the Brooklyn Nets. So... we'll talk about Rui Hachimura, Max Christie, and another young player, another one of the young players impressing early in camp. But let's start here, Andy. LeBron James at practice on Thursday said that he would not be participating in that opener on Saturday, but he hopes to play, would like to play, plans to play about half of the Lakers' 6 preseason games. Your thoughts?
I mean, in a vacuum, is it a big deal that LeBron's not playing in this game? No. I mean, assuming there's nothing injury-related involved with it, anything that they're worried about health-wise.
I retweeted, Andy, a clip today of Jackson Hayes during his media session having to stop because LeBron did some sort of bounce it off the floor, catch it off the backboard, windmill dunk. So I think he's fine physically.
Yeah. No. LeBron, by all accounts, is looking great. He was described by someone on the team as moving like a freight train
now.
It was Darvin, but yes, somebody else talking.
We're doing that all year, Andy. Woo, woo.
That's almost enough reason for me to root for LeBron to get injured. But it's a long-ass season of that nonsense.
A lot of training sounds.
Yeah, that's the point where we split up and we see which of our followers
It'd be like the noise they used to make, that woo noise they used to make in New Orleans for Chris Paul buckets.
We'll see who of our listeners wants to follow who.
Make train whistle happen.
Yeah, I expect a much larger crowd. But anyway, LeBron seems to be just fine, so there's nothing to worry about in and of itself. I will say this, though. LeBron mentioned wanting to play in half of the games. I hope that he plays in at least half, and I hope that the guys who matter play in at least half of the games, and whatever games are missed, they try to match them up so the guys who matter get a lot of reps together. Otherwise, I have concerns that we learned nothing from the disastrous preseason that was the 2021-22 season when Russ first arrived.
They were like aggressively nobody played.
Yeah. I mean, like the three of them, I'm not kidding. I don't think the big three played any preseason games together at all. In the moment, it felt aggressive considering, even the biggest optimists figured implementing Russ, might take a minute. Not, as I like to say, Russell Westbrook is the least blendable player in the NBA. So I would be.
We'll do it live.
Yeah,
right.
I would be concerned if they don't seem to be taking the preseason seriously. That doesn't mean that the main guys need to play 35 minutes a night in the preseason. That would frankly be dumb. But I do think it matters that the guys who figure to be core parts of the rotation get on a regular basis 15 minutes a night together. Like I do think it actually matters.
I think that it's one of these deals where the continuity aspect of things, on the one hand, makes it slightly less important that guys are, that they you have 6 games, you're going pedal down for all 6, making sure you're like that's excessive, because they do have some continuity here, and that's fine. But they don't they do have some stuff that you want to work out, and so the rotation questions, and Darvin says that he's got a pretty good idea of who he wants to put in that 5th starter. We assumed when he said that at practice on Thursday that he didn't mean Saturday, he meant broadly.
But he won't say. He's not going to tell us who it is.
Right, he won't say who it is, and I guess he didn't clarify too whether or not which one he meant. But let's
I hope he stretches this drama, by the way, all the way through opening night, game 1, but even up to the player introductions. You know how like LeBron is usually the last guy because he's LeBron James? I want LeBron to go 4th, and you make the 5th starter. Like, stretch out this suspense as long as you possibly can. Like,
don't even tell Lawrence Tanter. He runs to the table.
No,
like, if we're hands him a piece of paper.
Yeah, if we're gonna go totally unnecessary theater, let's really stretch this bad boy out.
Right, I agree. But they have some things to work out, and more importantly, or just as importantly, I should say, they need to get off to a good start, because you don't want to put yourself in position to be, chasing games early in the season. You want to be able to set yourself up to have a nice glide path in May and April, where if guys do need a little bit of time, or you need an extra game for LeBron or AD, somebody coming off injury, whatever it might be, you can afford to do those things because you've got that top 4 spot, which is, I think, essentially what the Lakers are gunning for. First and foremost is a spot in the top 4. Beyond that, it's stay out of the play-in where weird things can happen. But I don't think they necessarily need to be a number 1 seed. That's different. But you have, like, and you look through the schedule, they open at Denver, then they're home against Phoenix, then they're at Sacramento. Those are 3 of the top teams in the Western Conference. You go and you have Orlando. Okay, that ought to be a winnable game, but they're going to be better. They're going to be better, and they've got good players, if nothing else. Then you have the Clippers on the 1st of November, and sure, the Clippers later in the year might not be exactly whole and put together, but presumably 5 games into the season is about as healthy as they're going to get. Presumably, I don't know. So
reports coming out of their camp is that everybody's healthy right now. So
who knows? And then you have, then you go on the road and it's Orlando again, and we'll see. And Miami is always a difficult place to play. And the Rockets may not be terrible, particularly early in the season before they give up hope, but that's a completely remodeled roster. They won't be, at the very least, as bad as they were last year. Then you have Phoenix again. Okay. At home against Portland, and then Memphis and Sacramento again. Like, from the 24th through the 15th, like, that is a lot of really good playoff caliber teams that they're playing. And if you're not on point early in the season, you could find yourself 2, 3, 4 games under 500, even without playing that poorly. So I do think they need to be kind of ready to go from the jump.
Again, I don't need to see LeBron play 35 minutes a night. I don't even necessarily need him to play all 6 games. And LeBron pointed out that there were
the freight train, Andy.
Already hate this damn season. It's an adorable train, but at least you just want to see guys getting reps, getting to a place where they can hit the ground running. I know that they have continuity, and it's the first time they've had continuity like in the LeBron era, but still, let's not get cocky about this.
Yeah. One of the guys who has spent a lot of time with the freight train this year. This actually, if LeBron is the freight train, this actually could be Rui, like the understudy, is Rui Hachimura. It has been a major talking point of training camp, just how much time Rui has spent around LeBron, and it's something I think we can all get behind. Rui has some interesting goals for the season that he talked about this week, including on Thursday. We'll get to it next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel, and you can get into the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Celebrate it right now. New customers, you bet just $5, you get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. And you can use those bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, all sorts of futures, all sorts of fun, and all customers who bet, again, just $5, you get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app's really easy to use, fun experience, all those different options at your fingertips. But of course, there are also NBA props you can bet on. Opening night, as of this recording, the Lakers are 5.5 dogs on the road against the reigning champion Denver Nuggets. LeBron is a 50-1 bet to win MVP, which is pretty amazing. He's about to turn 39. And Anthony Davis, 30-1 for MVP. He says he doesn't care if he wins it or not, but just go win the thing, Anthony. That'd be nice. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on. Get all the way into the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL.
So apparently I didn't know this, Andy. I don't know why I didn't know this or why it didn't occur to me. LeBron is officially the oldest player in the NBA.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It makes sense, but it just never occurred to me.
Udonis Haslem retired. Who the hell else is there?
I don't know who would have been older. I'm just saying it. I don't know why it didn't occur to me. And it is. Look, there was a guy on the YouTube page today who was like, LeBron is the problem with this team, doesn't rebound, doesn't play defense, too many outside shots, this and that, whatever. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and
he doesn't rebound. Okay, LeBron does take too many outside shots, and at this stage of his career, he does have to be selective defensively at times over the course of 82 games, which, does require other guys to adjust for that. But, you can understand it, but doesn't rebound.
Look, the whole thing, Andy. Look, you can be critical of LeBron. He's not what he used to be. A little bit. To call him the problem is a bit of a taffy pull in my estimate. That's a stretch. But I look at this going, okay, that's a little much that he's the problem. But you think about it, for him to be, even if he's not what he was in prime Miami LeBron,
he's not. He isn't.
He's still a top 10 guy in the league. He's the oldest player, apparently, in the NBA, and he is still, a basically surefire, if he stays healthy, all NBA player. It is remarkable. So, Andy, with that in mind, it makes a lot of sense for Rui Hachimura to have glommed onto him in the way that he apparently has, to the point where he's just accompanying LeBron on road trips. They're just going places. I'm not even sure Rui was invited. I think he just shows up to LeBron's house and they go run errands together. But he is hanging out with LeBron all the freaking time.
Yeah, LeBron has said that he's basically Mr. Miyagi to Rui's Daniel-san. And, he's referred to Rui as his understudy. They are developing a really tight relationship in terms of teacher and student. Phil Handy was apparently a really big catalyst in encouraging Rui to make this happen, making sure LeBron was on board with it. And, it speaks to, what we've talked about before with Rui just seeming like a guy that has been rebirthed in his NBA career, now in a place where you have legitimate goals with winning, you have legitimate structure. He actually talked during Thursday's practice about just the idea of playing in these games that matter. He said, quote, I love those big games. I love those big stages. Honestly, before with the Wizards, we didn't really have a championship goal. With this team, of course, we have a championship, bigger goals. The motivation is different.
Why bother? I understand you're supposed to, but who are we kidding here? Yeah. Athletes are notoriously delusional, Andy. They're not that delusional.
Well, their goal was, I think, their goal is to win the championship in the same way, the Hornets are pulling up to camp this year saying they're looking to win a championship. Then you start thinking about the realistic goal, which is, maybe for the Wizards last year, their realistic goal was the 8th seed, because that seemed to be always what they were chasing.
Right.
And like building themselves to be able to win an 8th seed every year. And then after a while, they just fell into their usual dysfunction and Brad Beal watch and yada, yada, yada. But that has to be something that gives Rui like an opportunity to feel like he has more of a purpose as a player. That's going to excite you. Like the idea, you know what I mean? Like it's on him before in the Wizards to be professional, to, you know, be hardworking, to, you're supposed to be looking to do stuff anyway, but it can be human nature when you go through 3 seasons of seriously, what the hell are we doing here? It's like any job. If you
with
feel
a different
like
group of people and a different set of expectations and I'll say this too, because, you know, people have heard me say it before. They will hear me say it again. Context is incredibly important with young players and role players. And he is both of those things. To come to a place as cliche as it is when athletes say, I just want to be somewhere, you know, most important, you know, that I feel wanted where I am and all, you know, and blah, 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 blah. That is a real thing. And the Lakers acquired Hachimura with a different set of expectations than the Wizards drafted him with. He was, you know, when you're drafted in the top 10, you're expected to be, you know, a frontline player, if not a star, a frontline player on the team. That is the expectation, the hope.
All-star caliber.
Or adjacent, an Austin Reeves type, or, you know, something like that, where you're not, maybe not that good, but you're somewhere in the ballpark.
You know who you're expected to be? You're expected to be like what Kuzma has been with the Wizards. And
yes.
Kuzma essentially became Rui's replacement.
Right.
In
he
Washington.
made him kind of obsolete, and ironically will end up potentially fulfilling a similar role for the Lakers as Kuzma used to have.
Yeah.
But you know, you get in those situations where now he comes to LA, he's got a different set of expectations, but they've also shown him, we want you, we believe in you, we are willing to commit to you to the tune of 17 million and up, you know, over the, you know, the course of a career or of a contract. That's meaningful. And I think I can't, because I'm not a masochist, Andy. I have things to do. I did not spend a lot of time watching the Washington Wizards play basketball because people in Washington didn't do that. Why should I? But I don't, in LA, he's got kind of, you can see there's a tangible confidence and swagger and belief in what he's doing. And I think it comes from the commitment the Lakers have shown to him. I think it comes from the success that he has had playing with LeBron. Like, that will boost you up as a young player. And it's not just like they went to the Western Conference. Like, the metrics say those two work great together. That will boost you up as a player. And, you know, if you're looking for one of those reasons to think that Rui could make that leap to, you know, 6th man of the year conversations of like whatever,
assuming he doesn't start,
this, you know, this is the sort of stuff that plays into it.
Yeah. You know, Rui talked during the same practice about looking to attack the rim more often and more successfully. Apologies in the background. My dog is barking.
Couldn't hear.
I think a package got delivered or something, and there's nobody here other than me to answer the door.
Was it delivered by a freight train, Andy?
I don't think that's how Amazon rolls, but you never know.
It might have arrived there on one.
But Rui talked about wanting to be more successful at the rim. And he said, you know, I know I've got the mid-range, but I'm trying to be more aggressive on the rim. I'm working out a lot. My body got stronger, got more footwork. I'm just trying to get more easy points. And for all the talk about Rui and the three-point shot, which obviously was amazing during the playoffs and less so in the regular season. So people have wondered which version is the real version. For what it's worth, Rui has never been a great three-point shooter. Something that jumped out at me during his regular season was he was struggling at the rim a lot. Like, I looked up his numbers per cleaning the glass, and he was in the 26th percentile at his position, 61% at the rim, which is honestly pretty bad. He was much better during the playoffs. He was 76% at the rim, put him in the 79th percentile, much more acceptable. So just seeing Rui aware of certain things that he needs to do that even people haven't, I think, focused on as much with him.
Mm-hmm.
But like we talked about this a couple shows ago. I think there's actually been a little too much focus with Rui with that 3-point shot, and not some of the stuff that I think ultimately matters and makes him more who he actually is as a scorer.
Let's look at, we mentioned on, I think it was Wednesday's show, the impressive showing of Jalen Hood-Schifino early in camp. He is not the only young player who is impressing the veterans. We'll get to that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Bird Dogs, the makers of shorts and pants that feature the future of comfort, built-in underwear. Stitched inside the pants or shorts, it's almost like a layer of boxer brief that is at one with the clothing. They call it Comfort Kingdom, and you can rule this land in your Bird Dogs. They can make you feel better, look better. They make everyone's legs feel awesome, look fantastic, and they're comfier than other shorts or pants because they're not made from the typically stiff, restricting cotton in most leg wear that makes your legs feel confined, like they're in a cage. Bird Dog, they feature cloud knit fabric that looks like just regular khaki, but it stretches, it's liberating. Indulge your legs. They also feature versatility. You can wear the same pants or shorts on a golf course, work meeting, on a date, even in the same day. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or enter the promo code LockedOnNBA at the checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free water bottle at the checkout. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off ever.
But please do. Wash them. Jalen Hood-Schifino is a big dude. And as we noted, the other guy who looks physically different, really different. I mean, we've spent some time talking about Rui slimming down and whatever. He doesn't look that different to me. He just looks like a little like more yoked version of himself. He's always just a really big guy. Max Christie is like, he looks like a dude who put on the 15 pounds of muscle, but is actually young enough that you can look at it and say like, oh, he's kind of supposed to be able to do that. Just like by working out
although it can be harder for younger guys to put on weight. Like it sometimes is a bit of a struggle for them to fill into their bodies.
It can be, but he's not one of those like super skinny frame, Chet Holmgren types, where, it may not, Poku. They've actually got two of those guys on that team that when you add them together, make one human, like the one Zion sized person.
No, they're not that big.
One James Harden sized, but Max Christie is physically much bigger and stronger than he was last year, and is apparently impressing the heck out of people in training camp.
Yeah, the Lakers have been, they tweet out clips of all sorts of guys during practice, but I couldn't help but notice how a few of them have featured Max on both sides of the ball. He's been getting complimented from, different players around the team. Jackson Hayes said during Thursday's practice, Max Christie's a dog. His game has stood out to me. His game surprised me a lot. I'm sure in part because Jackson Hayes, this is his first season with Max Christie, so he probably wasn't all that familiar with him. But it just feels to me, and maybe this is confirmation bias because I've been high on Christie for a while, and I've had this pretty strong expectation that he's going to have a role in the rotation that matters this season, but it just feels like something that is building towards that this season that, again, I liked a lot of what we saw from Christie last season, even as a rookie, and especially once you take into account the growth that was clearly there during Summer League. It just feels like a guy that is ready to enter the rotation, and frankly, in a role that they need a guy like him to assume.
It's one of these things where, they've signed a bunch of players, they re-signed a bunch of players, but in terms of like things that can be really different, like Vincent is essentially a replacement for Dennis Schroeder. Like, I don't think it's realistic to expect him to be way better than Schroeder was last year. Maybe a little different, but Dennis played really well last year. So like if Vincent plays as well as Schroeder in whatever ways that they use him, but all things, in the aggregate that's good. That's a win for the Lakers. I think Taurean Prince can exceed what Beasley and Troy Brown gave them last year. That's essentially, you've made that point. Like, that's kind of who he's slotted in to replace and stuff like that. But Max Christie going from a guy where you say, that's some potential. He's got some potential there. He's holding his own as a rookie, a 19-year-old second round pick. Like, he's coming in and he's holding his own in these NBA minutes. Going from that to, in 75 games this year, Christie is going to be the 8th, 9th, 10th guy in our rotation, playing real minutes and more in some games because guys are going to be in and out of the lineup. But where you can go to him and say, like, this guy can give you not just 15 minutes, but 15 good minutes, where the first thing you say isn't, those are good minutes for a 20-year-old, for a second-year player, but they're just good minutes. That's like trading for another player.
Yeah, they didn't have a guy like...
Right, that Reeves kind of leaping up is like trading for another player.
Yes. Speaking of Reeves, one of those videos that the Lakers put out is Christie having a really good defensive stand in practice against Reeves, who tried to shake and couldn't. And, Christie locked him up to the point where Reeves had to get rid of the ball. And I know it's just practice, but at the same time, Austin Reeves, we know he's ascendant. He has not reached the place where he's going to be half-assing it during practice. No. Like, Reeves is both too competitive, but I think also still in a place where he's looking to establish himself, and therefore he's still going to be busting ass in practice. Like, whereas LeBron cares, I think, more about setting a tone and, like, sort of trying to make sure everyone is in the right places. I don't think LeBron necessarily sweats his moments in practice.
It's funny. Like, one of the things we were going to kind of look at is, like, what are you looking for on Saturday? It's the first preseason game, and guys are going to play, but not everybody, and not that many minutes and stuff like that. And this is one of those things. Like, does Christie, who's going to get more minutes in these, especially these early preseason games, than he might during the dress rehearsals? The probably 2 games I would think where they would run as essentially a dress rehearsal. Whether it's him, whether it's Hood Schifino, whether it's somebody like Castleton, who thankfully isn't in a position as much where they might need him to play, but guys like that,
Maxwell Lewis
against NBA competition, do they look like players who you could say, all right, if we need to, break the glass here in case of emergency, they'll come in and they're not going to kill us for 15 games, 10 games, 5 games if we need to rely on them. Like, that's what I'm looking for Saturday, because it's still a little early, I think, to get some of those combinations and floor combinations and stuff like that. You can see that on day one.
Yeah, before we go, I know in the past when we've talked about Christie, and I know you like what you've seen in him, but I think I've been higher on him in terms of ready to go. Like he could be ready.
For some people, the big distinction I thought from us last year is I felt like when you actually broke down his impact, it wasn't his impact, total impact on the floor wasn't as positive. So that when we both agreed he didn't need to be on the floor in the playoffs in that run, when he wasn't playing much late in the season.
Sure.
I was more like he shouldn't be, as opposed to you were like he could be, but I'm okay with him not.
Yeah.
Context.
I felt like, yeah, for sure. That is the correct context. And I was thinking about that, though, and I started looking, though, at the data itself and, like, thinking about the context of the data. Christie played 41 games last year. 33 of them were pre-All-Star break, which essentially means not entirely, but mostly before, D'Lo and
he didn't get
Vanderbilt.
The good games, is what you're saying.
Well, not only did he not get the good games, he also spent most of those games coming off the bench, which means he's playing with fewer of the really good players. Like, he's getting some Reeves time. He's getting a little bit of LeBron time, a little bit of AD time, but he's also getting a lot of Damian Jones time. Mm-hmm. He's getting a lot of Juan Toscano-Anderson time.
Don't forget that Damian Jones was on the team last year.
He's getting a lot of Kendrick Nunn time. He's playing with, particularly first half of the season, he's playing with pretty much all guys with negative net ratings. Like, to put this in perspective, pre-All-Star break, LeBron and AD were the only guys on the team with a net rating above 2. Right. They were the only two guys.
The whole goddamn band has negative ratings.
Yeah. I mean, Reeves, Mr. Plus Minus, Mr. Advanced Numbers, love him. His net rating was barely above, was not even 1. It was like 0.7. Schroeder was like 0.2. And
right, because the team was 6 games under 500.
Right, but that's my point with a lot of Christie's advanced numbers. Like, of course they're crappy. Like they're not going to be good
than a lot of them. So,
but when you put him, when you put him with LeBron, when you put him with Reeves, when you put them together, they get much better.
He will benefit by playing this season with better players. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like he will benefit from that. And, and I think what I like about this team is these guys, and I don't consider Christie to be one of them. We quit here. Christie is not break glass in case of emergency. I think he's going to be part of he's going to start the season as part of the rotation. But these other guys, when you maybe include Christie if you want at the back end of the rotation, are all in one way or another smart dudes who will come in and understand what they're being asked to do, will play fundamentally sound, and will get what the scheme is. They might not always execute it. They might miss shots. They might make turnovers. They might do things out of inexperience, but it's not going to be because they don't get it. It's not going to be because they're confused. And I think it's really important for a team like the Lakers, with the sort of aspirations that they have and the need for depth that they have, to collect those kinds of players. So another good indication the front office and the scouting department knows what they're doing. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with about 21,000 subscribers to the channel. Let's boost up those numbers, people, as we head into the regular season. Lots of fun stuff to look forward to, including games on Saturday and then Monday, and we will be back to talk about it all. Everyone have a great weekend.